Hi everyone, welcome to Reading with Eve, and let's get on with the bookish video. Today I'm looking at a tier ranking of all of the books I read throughout 2024. We have 127 books. Just a small disclaimer that there are a few that I couldn't find a thingy for to put it as a square in a tier, so I will just tell you where they go. But apart from that, we have all of them gathered and ready to go. So I will walk you through the tiers and we will commence the ranking. So as you can see, I went with some simple names just to keep things basic but efficient, because last year I think I went like really complex with the names, and then by the time I got around to saying them, you get the point. I just thought I'll go simple, effective. So top tier is Simply the Best, which is for like my 5 stars best books of the year. If you watched my top books of the year video, you roughly know what's gonna be on there, but there are a few that I didn't mention, so you'll see them. Then Perfectly Fine is for my 4.5 star books, like books that I really loved, but books that aren't my all-time favorites. Then Is Met a Word? It's not a bad tier per se, it's in the middle. Like for all my 3 stars, some 3.5s that I remember just fine. I thought they were fine books, but like they didn't leave a lasting impression for them to go into this tier, for example. So there will be a few 3.5s here that I really enjoyed, but I had some issues with. So I will just walk you through those cases as we go. Who Are You Again are for books of any ranking that I don't remember anything about. They didn't leave any impression on me. Not super positive, not super negative. Like for those 3 stars or like, I don't know, some 2.5s, whatever, that I just don't remember at all. And Straight into the Fire. So these are not just going to be like my 1 stars, because I don't have many of them this year. Well, last year, I should say. But these are for all the books that caused me to feel negative things. So you have my disappointments, you have my like just worst fury inducing books. So anything that's like 2.5, 2 stars and under is probably gonna go into this tier. So now that we have that cleared up, let's begin ranking. So we have The Lost Apothecary. This one is gonna go into Perfectly Fine. It was a sort of like a bit of a magical realism, very gentle, kind of like detective story of finding your worth and whatnot. Like it was fine. A good book, but not a favorite. The Miniaturist, I'm gonna put it here because I read it. It was actually one of my last few reads of 2024, but like I can appreciate the story was fine, but I just don't really, it didn't stick with me. And maybe I'm just too dumb for it, I don't know, but like it didn't leave a lasting impression for me. Misfortune of Lake Monsters, Perfectly Fine, a fun creature feature, sort of 80s nostalgia kind of book. American Psycho, Simply the Best. Watching You, I'm gonna put it in Perfectly Fine because it was a 3.5 for me. I had some issues with it, so technically it's like it's my second lowest Lisa Joel book, actually. The Family Upstairs, I know, was lower, but I enjoyed it enough to still crown it as my library edition, and yeah, it was a fine book. Neverworld Wake, Straight into the Fire, just did not work for me on any level. Black. The Party by Robin Harding, Perfectly Fine. A nice, slow-paced domestic thriller that will really make you think about some things. I'm a Fan by Sheena Patel. Straight into the Fire, I was not a fan of this one. The Sanatorium by Sarah Pierce, also Straight into the Fire. A lot of like the ones that I didn't like are popping up in the beginning. I promise you, we have lots of good ones. It was a successful year. Then Invisible Monsters by Chuck Palahniuk. I read the remix. I think this is the OG cover, but it can just it's fine. You know what book I'm talking about. It can go here, perfectly fine. Not an all-time favorite, but I really enjoyed it. So I just want to make sure you can still see all the tiers, which you cannot. Bear with me. Nope, you can't see that. So, okay. Okay, I think that'll be fine. So we have A Hunted, which is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, perfectly fine, but nothing like to shout from the rooftops about. Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell. Love it. One of my favorites of the year. Then we have, what is that one? Stories of Women in Middle Ages. It was fine. Like, it was a fine non-fiction book, educational, but it didn't leave a lasting impression. The Alone Time by Elmar, which is disappointing. Then The Arrangement by Robin Harding can also go into this category. Just a perfect popcorn thriller, unhinged. It's just, you know, really fun times. Then we have You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight. That can go into perfectly fine. Like, it was a fun read that fell apart for me in like the last third a bit, but I still had a good time with it. Some Girls Are by Courtney Summers, one of my favorites this year. Secret Sex Lives of Medieval Women. That was such a fun but actually quite disturbing and insightful bit of nonfiction. I really enjoyed it. Just not an all-time favorite. Secret History by Donna Tartt. Absolutely loved it. Pirate Women. Again, perfectly fine. Another like nonfiction bit about women in different periods of time that were pirates and whatnot. It's an interesting piece of history. The Mary Shelley Club. Love it. New all-time favorite. The Couple Next Door by Shari Lapena. Can go into perfectly fine. I love her books, but this one just didn't quite meet that whole, you know, a new all-time amazing favorite book. Diavola by Jennifer Thorne, one of my worst books of the year easily. The Project by Courtney Summers, perfectly fine. Sorry, I'm just gonna see if you can see anything, and you can not. So just bear with me. I'm gonna try to arrange. Okay, I think that's better. Sorry, I know I keep moving it, but I wanted to have them like as a portrait just so I can recognize the cover easier, because when they're cropped into squares, sometimes I really struggle to remember what cover it was. So yeah, just wanted to make sure you can see all the tiers as best as possible. So yeah, now Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. I will put here because I had some issues with it, but overall it was entertaining. I already had a rant about it, so I'm not going to repeat it here, but it was a decent book. I just, I think that she has better ones based on what people said. This is definitely not her best work. Girls Save the World in this one. Straight into the Fire. I really didn't like that one. The Deathless Girls, Who Are You? Again, I read this in December. I remember absolutely nothing about it. How to Survive a Horror Movie, again, is a word, or do I remember anything about it? I will put it here because I remember some stuff about it. It's like a nonfiction where it talks like a bit of like, tries to be like this tongue-in-cheek sort of satire, nonfiction look into how to survive a horror movie, but it's kind of like, it's okay, I guess, but it just falls a bit flat for me. Richard Osman's Thursday Murder Club. It was fine. Like, it was a fine book, but it didn't leave me, like, a lasting impression, and I know if Charlie is watching this, she's gonna come for me, but we do agree to disagree, so I'm sorry if you're watching this. It didn't do anything for me, but I love that you love it, so all good. In Every Generation, a Slayer is Born. Perfectly fine. Great look into the behind-the-scenes drama and just like interesting facts about Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which is one of my favorite shows ever. Then we got She's Always Hungry, one of my new favorites. I love Eliza Clark. My Heart is a Chainsaw, Straight into the Fire. I mean, this one I can see the potential, and I speak about it in my worst books of the year video. I'm not sure which one's coming out first. I'm gonna assume that one and not this one, but it still didn't work for me. Survivor by J.F. Gonzalez, perfectly fine. I don't know if I mentioned it in my wrap up because I think I kind of just blased through it. But the main thing that didn't work for me, I just thought it was too long. Like, I didn't think that it was necessary for it to be like 400 some pages nearly. It could have easily just been trimmed down to like 250, 300 pages and not lost anything. But apart from that, I really, well, enjoyed is not the right word properly, probably. I can't speak. It's more of a fascinating, horrifying read, if that makes sense. Then Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney, again, perfectly fine. I think I gave it a 4, but kind of like a soft 4. It surprised me, it interested me. It's a fine book, but like looking back on it, I do think that these could be sort of like interchangeable. Some aspects of Daisy Darker I enjoyed more than Rock, Paper, Scissors. Some aspects of Rock, Paper, Scissors I enjoyed more of. You get the point. On Birthday, it was fun. And Alice in Wonderland Disney retelling of those like official Disney retelling series. Vampires of El Norte, again, just the definition of myth for me. Then, I was gonna say, okay, you can still see everything. Okay, perfect. Then, Delusion of Satan. Again, it's kind of like a look into Satanism, in the medieval times, like Salem witch trials, kind of, I guess. It was fine, but like nothing memorable. The Lighthouse Witches, this is a 3.5, but I will put it in here because the ending fell really flat for me, and there were some like dual timeline parts that I just did not care about. Petrified Women, perfectly fine. Girl Forgotten, ironically, I don't remember much about it. It was fine what I can remember it for. The Push, a new all-time favorite. Reappearance of Rachel Price, also a new all-time favorite. Game of Thrones Psychology, perfectly fine. I think it was like a 3.5. But if you're a fan of the show, this will be a good read for you. But obviously, if you don't know the characters, you're not really going to care about anything that's said. Revival by Stephen King. Pieces of Her. I don't know why it's here, because I read it last year. I think because I edited this tier list from like last year, so I think I accidentally left this in. But just to reiterate how much I despised this book, I will just put it here and just feel free to pretend it's not there, but it would annoy me if I left it here. Down the Drain, loved it. Understanding Movies, remember none of it's like a nonfiction, kind of like it's a recorded lecture sort of thing. I don't know, but it went over my head because it was just really dull narration. Hidden Pictures, I will put it here because at the time of reading I really enjoyed it, but like I gave it a 4.5 actually, I think, and I stand by that. It has some interesting elements, but I do agree with people who say that the twist and like some commentary that comes with it is quite offensive. So in good conscience, I can't really preach it knowing that. So yeah, I am downgrading it. I'm not gonna like go change my rankings on like platforms or whatever, but looking back on it, it's like meh at best. Animal by Lisa Tadeo, perfectly fine. The Near Witch, perfectly fine. Penance, new all-time favorite. Education and Malice, again, a perfectly okay book, but just I don't remember much about it. And we are gonna adjust yet again. So sorry, just okay. So now we have Boy Parts by Eliza Clark, going into all-time faves. The Pisces, I'm going to put it here because I don't want to read books about dogs being abused and dying horribly. I've spoken my thoughts on the topic. Her writing's impeccable, and I'm going to pick up anything that she releases, and there were parts of the story I enjoyed, but that definitely, I did not enjoy that part. Poor dog. But, you know, if you know me at all from anywhere, you know my feelings on the subject, so I'm not gonna go into a 10-minute tangent. American Witches, I completely forgot. It's like a nonfiction about, well, the title says it, but it's fine. I, from, you know, like it didn't induce negative feelings in me, I guess. Wrong Place, Wrong Time. I will put it in here. Like, I think I gave it a 4-star, but looking back on it, like a lot of bits were, you know. So I'd probably give it like a 3.5 at most now, I guess. But yeah, it had some good parts, but overall it was like, okay. Bad Dolls by Rachel Harrison. Really good book. Watch Over Me by Nina LaCour can also go in here. Men Who Hate Women by Laura Bates, a new all-time favorite. I'm so sorry, but like there's no way I can fit everything in, so I'm doing my best. It's Behind You. Fucking hate that one. Bury Your Gaze. It was fine, nothing too memorable. Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, my favorite book of the year. My Best Friend's Exorcism. I mean, great book. I really enjoyed it. I'm Still Alive by Kate Alice Marshall. This one I will put here just because of some things I talked about in my November-December wrap-up that didn't work for me. But overall, it's a good book, but like when I gave it a 3.5, like it was like kind of like a, just because it left an impression on me, but there were parts of the story where it's like, oh my god. So yeah, I had some issues with it. Then Haven by Mia Dahlia. Like, it was just a bit disappointing. The Lost Village by Camilla Sten. Again, the definition of mlech. The Shuddering by Anya Alborn. Really, really enjoyed that one. Then, wait, let me see if I can shrink the size of the thing itself a little bit, like on Google, just so that you guys can see better. Sorry, I'm trying to figure it out. Okay, I think this will do. Grimrose Girls can go here. Night Shoot, again, perfectly fine. Episode 13, also perfectly fine. Like, these were like all my 4s, 4.5s. I've already spoken about them. The House That Horror Built. I will put it in perfectly fine, even though it was a 3.5, just because it was still a decently written book, despite some problems that I had with it. Tender is the Flesh, perfectly fine. The puppy scene traumatized me forever. Good Girls Die First, also hated this one. The same author as It's Behind You, just The Perfect Girlfriend, perfectly fine. Friday Book 1, I remember nothing. Mayfly, perfectly fine. It was a 3.5. I had a good time with it. I know some people that I know despise this book, but it was fun for me. And then there were None by Agatha Christie. Once again, perfectly fine. After That Night by Karen Slaughter. It was okay. 10 by Gretchen Neal. Perfectly fine. Alice by Christina Henry. A new all-time favorite. Forever Interrupted by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Also perfectly fine. Exalted by Anna Dorn. A new all-time favorite. The Luminaries. It was fine. I don't remember much about it, but I don't remember, like, there's enough that I remember to not put it here, is what I'm saying. Long Island by Colm Tobin. Same here, again, perfectly fine. Then I have The Ivies by Alexa Dunn. Just another YA thriller. Unpregnant, perfectly. Then we have 5 Survive by Holly Jackson. Again, perfectly fine, just definitely not an all-time favorite. I Have Never Known Men is a new all-time favorite. Milk and Honey is the definition of, it's okay. She Kills Me, interesting look into some, like, true crime stuff that's happened in the past, like, from a more kind of, like, a historical lens. I quite enjoyed this one. Great Gatsby, an all-time, well, at least definitely one of my best books of the year. If it's an all-new time favorite, we'll see. Heartstream by Tom Pollock. I hope that it's the right name, but yeah, definitely the definition of, like, definitely meh of the tier. Red Dead's History, an amazing book for the fans of the game and fans of like the Wild West outlaw stories. I would really recommend if you like either of those things. It's very educational, but also interesting to listen to. Narrated by the same guy who does Arthur Morgan's voice in Red Dead Redemption 2. Then Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield. You know how much I love this book. I haven't shut up about it in like forever. Private Rides by Julia Armfield as well. Can go in perfectly fine. Didn't quite live up to Our Wives Under the Sea for me. The Catch by T.M. Logan. A nice fast-paced thriller, nothing much to say. Not a Happy Family by Shari Lapina. This one is definitely going into the top tier. I loved it so much. Babel, perfectly fine. Rebecca, a new all-time favorite. I adored it. The Last Tupai, I remember nothing of this book. Jamaica Inn, it was, like, after Rebecca, reading Jamaica Inn fell a bit flat for me because of how much I loved Rebecca. But yeah, this one, it was fine. Then Hex was perfectly fine. I didn't like the kind of like the last quarter. I really didn't like it. That's why it's a 4-star for me. Perfume and Pain, again, perfectly fine. But not quite the 5-star feeling. Woman Cabin 10, unfortunately, it has to go in here. My worst Ruthware book by far. Peril in Pink can also go in here. And what is that? The Library of Mount Char. I did not like this one at all. We are nearly there. I'm sorry, there's no way for me to bring the top tier and make you see without like loading these up. I cannot talk apparently. But my Dark Vanessa is gonna go into, not here, but I need to scroll up. Sorry, bear with me. So it's going into like my top tier. How Horror Works in Books and Film. I really didn't enjoy the narration. I just thought it was a bit, like, it wasn't informative, it wasn't interesting. The structure was off, like, it didn't work for me. I was just disappointed. Like, I didn't outright hated it, but, it's just, I don't know. For a horror fan, it was very lackluster. Rust Stop by Ned Cassidy. Such a huge disappointment. I mean, I didn't despise it. It had, like, some bits that it could have worked a lot better, but like overall 2-star for me is like the epitome of I didn't like it, I was disappointed. It wasn't the worst thing ever, but it could have been so much more. 45 Murders, it was fine, like a nonfiction true crime sort of thing. Pen Pal, it's not going here, but I needed to scroll. A new favorite of all time. The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager. A perfectly fine thriller. Stolen Tongues. It didn't work for me. I already spoke about why. The Sluts by Dennis Cooper. Perfectly fine. The Wife Between Us. Meh. Like, it is in the meh of this, like, thing. Because, like I said, some of these I enjoyed, but it was, you know. So yeah, that one is like, it was like a 3-star at a push for me. Night Watching. It's gonna go into... Like, I loved it. Like, that's how you write a good thriller. And last but not least, Dead 11 by Jimmy Giuliano. What a controversial book pick for Meg's book club. For this one, I'll put it here. It was okay. I didn't hate it, unlike a lot of others, and I stood by it. And I still do. But I did say why and what I think about the book already. I won't repeat myself. And that is it. As you can see, there's no way for me to shrink it anymore. So this is my bottom tier. Just ignore this one. So I did have some duds, as you can see, but bear in mind, like I said, these books are all the ones that I ranked 2.5 and lower. So out of like all of these, I've not read that many bad books. That didn't work for me. And I don't think that anything I missed out on that I said I couldn't add. There's nothing else that I could put in here. And I barely had books that were so forgettable for me that I don't remember anything about them, which I think is also good. I had a fair few just sort of like, they're okay, but I have some issues with them, or they're okay, but they're nothing to write home about, nothing to talk about. Like, they're not super, super duper memorable. And I don't think there's anything to go in here, or if it is, I'm ironically not remembering, but it's fine. And then, as you can see, a lot of books, like, there were 4 stars, some 3.5s, some 4.5s, you know, like, all like really good books that I really enjoyed. And then these are my favorites of the year, best of the best. I didn't have a picture of Monastery series by my friend Renata, but that would definitely go in here as well. I really enjoyed it, but like, because it's in such an interesting format, sometimes I don't think about it as like a book per se. I think about it more as like a novelized TV show, which was his intention. So it's kind of like hard to talk about it in like videos or lists and stuff, because it's an investment of your time and effort to read through it, but it's definitely worth it, and I will eventually do more promo on it and do a bit more of a deep dive and whatnot. So keep an eye out on that if you're interested in some nostalgic mystery comedy vibes. But yeah, if I am forgetting something else, then I'm sorry, but I can't think of anything. So yeah, fingers crossed. But clearly, if I am forgetting it, then it's nothing that groundbreaking, logically. So yeah, these are my books, and I hope that you enjoyed this video. I know I kind of blew through it, but I wanted to still be mindful of the time. I mean, who am I kidding? This video is still going to be like 40 minutes, because of the amount of books that are being talked about. So yeah, I hope that you enjoyed. If you read any of these, please share your thoughts and opinions, and I am looking forward to seeing you next time. Bye!